I am here today with Valerie Bihet. She is the owner of the Vibe Agency. How are you today, Valerie?
I'm doing good. And you?
I am
How
doing
is the weather
wonderful.
in Ohio right now?
It is so windy and rainy here. If you looked out of my window, it's literally raining leaves in my backyard that are as big as my fist. It's crazy. How are things where you are?
Oh, Chris, you will be jealous. Blue sky, almost zero clouds, perfect weather, no humidity right now. It's what we love about Florida right now.
That is I'm jealous. I spent probably 15 years in Florida and I definitely remember that. The weather is something we just deal with here in Ohio, and I can, it's not the best. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best. So Valerie, so you're in Florida right now, right? And I think maybe a good place to start would be, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of, you know, how have you gotten to where you are, right? Your career to being the owner of the Vibe Agency.
Yeah, so as you can probably guess, I will try. I'm from Paris, Texas. Will you believe me, Chris?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm from France. I lived in Paris, and I started all my study in finance. And I went to do an internship in New York, actually, in merger and acquisition. And my boss told me, Valerie, you know exactly what you are doing. You are good. You know all your tips and tricks in finance, but you are like a flowers. When you go out at night, when we have like clients events or we are invited to promote the company, you are like a flower opening and everything. So I think you should change your career. So I went back to France and I had an opportunity to work for Disney in France. And I was in PR and special events. So this is how I started my career in the event industry. One of the best school, in my opinion, where you learn a lot with a lot of different events. There is a lot of politics. You learn to work internally with a lot of vendors internally in the company. And then from there, I moved to the inventor of the all-inclusive in the hospitality business. I worked for Club Med. So, and my job was also PR and events. So I worked for them in France, and then I had the opportunity back in 2000 to move in United States, where I handled the communication department, part of the marketing, and we were producing events when we were opening new properties, when we were doing a product launch for the year, where we were also creating different events on different theme to drive business and traffic to the property. And from there, my boss asked me to go back to France. And I don't know, I was not ready to move back to France. I think I like United States and I really enjoy it. And I said no. And so I ended up to be here. And I say, oh my goodness, what I will do now. And the only thing I knew to do was events. And coincidence, I sold an event concept to LVMH Group, a concept that they are actually using still today. And this is how Vibe Agency started. And, you know, when you work with luxury brand, one luxury brand is bringing you another one, because which will be, I think, a part of the discussion that we will have later. They always educate themselves on what's going on next door. You know, the idea is to get an idea and to make it better than what you see. And so this is really how Vibe Agency started. We have been very lucky because we passed several crises, 2008, as you probably will remember. And lately, definitely, the one that we don't want to pronounce anymore, and we try to forget, the big C word.
That's right.
C letter.
That's right.
But which also, I think, was a huge opportunity to challenge ourselves and to have the digital transformation of our industry, which was one of maybe the last industry who was really focusing on our digital transformation. And that's it.
Awesome. So let's dig a little bit more into the Vibe Agency, right? So you're obviously focused on digital and events. Tell me a little bit more about what you all do and the kind of events that you're doing right now.
So I'm specialized in corporate meetings and events. I don't do any social wedding. I don't do any family celebration. I'm purely dedicated my time to corporate event because I used to work for corporate. So we produce any events. We help clients with their event strategy. And right now in the event strategy, what are your tools? In-person event that we all knew for many, many years. Virtual event with digital or in three-dimensional, which bring us right now also with a new tool that everybody hear and read in the news with a metaverse, because you can produce metaverse event. And then right now, people were really missing in-person events. So we have kind of an hybrid situation where it's a little bit in-person with maybe 100 people on site in an hotel or in a venue, and maybe another 100 people or 200 people virtually attending the event. And so we are here to help crossing the bridge, making the engagement with this strategy. So we help also with trade show, because corporations are also sometimes going on trade show. So really anything related to the an event strategy in a corporation, we are here to assist. So we work with marketing executive, we work with executive assistant, we work with the sales team, the HR team, communication team. So from internal audience or external audience.
So you mentioned some really interesting things there as far as the hybrid events, the metaverse events, some of these interesting virtual events. What kind of trends are you seeing out there right now as far as what people are looking to do?
So, there is always the leaders, the one who are challenging themselves because they educate themselves much quicker than others, and they always push their boundaries. So some of them are already in the metaverse. The metaverse will be one part of the event strategy that we will have to use in the future. Others who were 100% for in-person event are back there, maybe with less people attending the event right now. So, they are just testing. Also, right now we have a huge inflation going on, which is also applying for the event industry, as you can imagine. So budget-wise, you need to make sure that everything will be a good mix depending on your budget. And that when a company is making a revenue, 10% of the revenue and the gross margin is supposed to be allocated to your marketing budget. And then 10% of this global marketing budget could be for your event strategy as part of your marketing strategy. So you see a mix of combination. There is some corporate companies who are still not back yet to in-person event. They are still using more digital option. And there is some that they are back there. And actually, I would say that we were pretty successful and really not having any major percentage number of the C case, which is good because we put in place, I certify myself, I educate myself, and I did a certification as a COVID compliance officer. And in any in-person event that I'm producing right now, I'm always applying those tips and tricks, protocol, process to make sure that the in-person event that we are producing are safe.
So those have really kind of become the standard then. I mean, it's not just a one-off because we had a pandemic. It sounds like they're also influencing, future meeting standards moving forward. Is that right?
Completely right. Yes, definitely.
Okay. And so when people are planning their events and they're looking to do, whether it's a hybrid, an in-person, virtual, metaverse, they're having to take, especially, the in-person side, they're having to take this into account when they're talking about space, size, how the room's set up, right? Like I imagine people aren't doing the shoulder to shoulder, chair to chair, 400 people in a very small room kind of thing anymore.
Yes, and the event industry evolve, what people are expecting, where people want to attend the event, all these type of things evolve. We were doing a lot more outdoor location, definitely, with open space. So this is what people wanted to feel more safe. And I think any event planner need to take in consideration all those trends when they think and they build their content. I think, for example, also the attention span dropped a lot. And people are not used to stay for 5 or 6 hours in a room closed and having like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half full session. You need to think about your content. How will you engage with your audience every 20 minutes before there is a huge attention span drop? So there is a lot of things to take in consideration after the pandemic, definitely.
Wow. Well, you've mentioned education like 3 times now, as far as, as far as what you're looking at right now. So when you're talking about education, can you maybe define that a little bit more for me? What are you referring to when you talk about, educating yourself or educating your team or educating yourself on trends? What does that look like for you?
I will give you an example because I remember when I was a kid, my mom is a doctor and now she's retired actually, but she had an ongoing education, even if she was doing 17 years of classes, courses to be a doctor. And every year she had to go to do some seminar, to assist to some classes, to stay at the top of her industry, to stay at the top of her knowledge, to move forward on what's going on in the trend. The world evolved, the world changed. We also are changing as a person, and I think I dedicate 20% of my time to education, because otherwise you will become, I don't know if this is a white word in English, but you will become obsolete. You will become outdated.
Right.
So you need to push yourself. You need to give the time to educate yourself. You need to show example. If you are a leader, you need to help to facilitate those times. And I know it might be, some people maybe are still not believing in it, but I really push and I'm an advocate for education, ongoing education.
So yeah, first of all, I completely agree. You're going to find an ally and a friend in me in that conversation. So for you, if you're spending 20% of your time, on education, what does that look like? Like what are you studying? What are you taking in? How are you doing it?
You have different way to do it. After, it's a question of organization and time management. So 20% of your time, if you work 40 hours, it's a day, a week, which can be a lot. The way I'm doing it, me in my inbox, I would say I have like a color, which is my yellow color. And each time I receive an email and I know I need to pay attention, I know I need to read more an article, a blog, or a magazine, because right now I'm very digital on magazine that I receive. I prefer to receive digital newsletter, digital magazine. I flag this with this color. And then it's in my inbox. When you filter it by category, I have all my yellow emails that I need to read. And then either, if you are, I would say, an employee, of course, you want to work and to educate yourself during your week time, Monday to Friday. So I will recommend to do that on Monday or on Friday, and to block some hours in your calendar every week to do it. Me, to be honest with you, I'm traveling a lot. So sometimes I was gone for 2 weeks on the road and I have no time. So if I'm not traveling, like for the next week, I'm not traveling, I have my time scheduled and blocked. If not, otherwise, when I know I'm traveling, I will make sure that at the end of 2 weeks, because I start to have a lot to read, I block maybe like 4 or 5 hours, and I'm going faster in this process at maybe to go 2 hours here to stop, 2 hours there to stop. So you need to find your pace to learn and the way you want to learn. I'm reading books also, so I really force myself to read books. I have a Kindle, and like that I can read it at any time. It's easy to transport in a plane. Usually also I like to read article in the plane. So if you travel a lot, this is also a very good time. And then after, if on the weekend you like to read, read what you have to, what's concern you, So maybe you say one weekend I will read all my article and magazine to educate myself. The next weekend I will read like a novel. So, like that, I think everything become part of your routine, and then you will feel good, because you learn a lot. Honestly, there is a lot of information, and I think it's important for anybody.
So I couldn't agree more. I think that finding the time is probably the hardest thing for anybody to do, and creating habits around that as well. So with the people that work for you, people that work with you, how are you trying to incorporate education into what they do? Is that something that you're allowing for? Is that something that you're helping them figure out how to do on their own? What does that look like?
I think it's both a combination. When the team is having a production meeting, I told them that they need to talk about article, new hotels, new restaurants, new activity that anybody in the team read about. So I tell my production manager to really force, because I forced her to do it. And now she is trained, after working with me for more than 5 years, she is trained to do it herself for other new people who join the team. And then after, you can also give incentivize. There is another thing that you saw during the pandemic, the booming of coaching. Coach, leadership coaching, business coach, life coach, which anyway is a form of education to challenge yourself, to do better, to challenge yourself on situation that maybe you don't know how to handle. And I think, this is good when you have a leadership team to give them the opportunity to be coach. I think us as a manager, we have also to coach. I will give you just a simple example. One of our new addition in the team, after we request a lot of information from our vendors, which is also very time consuming for them. If unfortunately we are losing some project because they end up not to come in United States and they end up to go in Asia with somebody else, or they end up to cancel the event for business reason, for any reason. And I push my team to say, send an email to your partner, say thank you for your time. I'm sorry we lost this one, many more to come. Take the time to acknowledge. And I saw her doing it really one by one, where right now it's very time consuming. And I say, there is another trick here. You can gain on productivity if you were doing something else like this, for example. So I send her an email and I say, hey, do you want to hop in on a quick call? I just want to show you something. I saw you what you were doing and you apply exactly what we teach you to do. Congratulations. But I want maybe to help you to gain a little bit on time on that. So maybe go there, use Outlook, use maybe a template. And in these templates, maybe do an email group to all your vendors who were working on the project. You can BCC or copy everybody on that email, up to you. But, I think, this is a way of teaching. When you see something, go for it. Give your team an idea that you have, or something that you apply to yourself that they can benefit from. And this is how you will grow all your team, and as well as yourself.
I think that's phenomenal advice. And I think when a lot of people build their education habits, they really look internally, right? Like you said to begin with, right? You spend 20% of your week, you have your habits, you have your digital media, you've got your Kindle, you've got your colors in your inbox. But if it doesn't go past you, it's not going to help the people that are around you, right? And so maybe they have their own system, right? My system is different than your system. But if you keep sharing those systems across the organization, it's going to work for somebody, right?
Yes, it works. And then you might find a system that is actually very good and work for somebody, and you want to try. Because, I think if you want to push yourself, don't stay the 2 feet in the same shoes. For you men, they always say, when you shave yourself in the morning, try to do it a different day every day, or to start somewhere. This is exactly the same thing in education. If at some point you stay in the same thing, then you will not learn with as much as fun as you could be, in my opinion.
I love that. And I think that that's I have to imagine that as you're exploring the metaverse and you're exploring digital, some of these new means of digital events and things like that, this has to be part of your education. Is that right?
Yes, my daughter is playing on Roblox. She's building on Roblox. So I was curious. I'm not a gamer personally, but I had to spend time and asking questions. How do you do that? And what do you like about it? And then the metaverse exists, Chris, for many years, but nobody was talking about it in our industry. So everybody is talking about it also now in retail. It's huge because it definitely can be the future of internet. The internet in 2 dimension today might be the internet in 3 dimension tomorrow. So, in the future, and you have also kids like me. So we have to see what's going on, what will happen for them, and where we are taking them and where we are leading them.
I can empathize completely with the Roblox conversation. Ours is Minecraft. But it's the same thing, right? I mean, you're seeing whole worlds built in front of you, and it's been there for a decade, right? I mean, it's been there it's been there forever, just sitting behind the scenes, which is absolutely incredible. So I have to think that as you're building education habits, right, and you're building things for yourself, it's not only what's happening today, it's not only what somebody has learned from what they've done in the past, it's also got to be speculation, like you're doing here, where you see your daughter playing Roblox, and it's like, oh man, I got to figure this thing out, because there's an opportunity somewhere in here, even if you can't draw a dotted line or you can't draw a straight line to it yet.
And I will give you one example. I don't know if you remember the movie The Fifth Element.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yep.
I give you the challenge. Watch the movie today.
Okay.
Again. And you will see that it's part of education, because everything that you see in this movie is there today. So, it's very interesting. All the technology you see in the movie is in action today already and is very alive. So it's part of the education. You need to think about what's going on, where are we going, what are the new trends. And trends for education are everywhere, in movie, in TV show, in the food, in decoration. Like, for example, for an event, when you design an event and you set up like chairs, couch, colors, everything. I love to go in shopping mall and to check stores, because there is always some trend that they will bring. In the clothing industry are always with their collection, always in advance in the color, in advance in the texture. So it's moving. The world is moving constantly. So you have to educate yourself.
I think that's an extremely powerful message. And I hope everybody who's listening is thinking to themselves, if we call it the 20% rule, right? If 20% of your time is spent on education, how much of my time this week is spent on education? And maybe I can't get to 20 today, but can I get to 5? Can I get to 10? Can I organize some things so that I can get to 15? Eventually trying to get to that, whatever that number is for you. I think that's a really interesting concept.
I will tell you one more thing here. If you don't know where to start and you are struggling to start, watch a podcast of Mel Robbins and apply her 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rules. It's like, and she gives that example when you don't want to get up in the morning, tired and everything. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Stand up, go, do something. So it's exactly the same thing in education. At some point, start somewhere. Maybe it will be like 5% of your time this week, and it will be 10 the following week, 15. And then remember, to change an habit, you need 21 days straight consecutive.
I think there are two things that you just hit on there, which are, kind of the basis of change, right? One is you have to build the habits, right? And in order to build a habit, you have to stick with it. But I think more importantly, to your point about the Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, it's action. You have to do something. You can't just think about doing something. You have to get out there and actually do it. And I think people hear that all the time, and it's one of those things that's been almost marginalized in our background, right? Oh, I know, I have to start it in order to, to do it. I got it. and until you actually have to do it. And then it's amazing how many people walk away from it and don't do it. It's absolutely incredible. I love that piece of advice. So I've taken a whole bunch of advice from you here so far. We've talked about education. We've talked about future trends. We've talked about getting started. We've talked about habits. Do you have any other advice that you're giving to people these days as they're entering the hospitality industry?
If you are passionate, keep pushing, believe in what you do, and go for it, you know. And I think it's okay to have also some days where it feels hard. It's a very hard industry. It's a tough industry, and we saw it because we lost a lot of people who didn't want to come back in this industry. But for those who are still here, I'm proud of you. Be proud of yourself, I would say, and educate yourself. Talk to each other. If you feel down one day, maybe feel free, reach out to me. I'm full of energy. I have a lot of tricks and I can send you some love, so don't worry. No, we have a beautiful industry, and I think everything that happened was hard for everybody, but it was, on the contrary, it was an amazing opportunity to challenge ourselves, to reinvent ourselves, to push the boundary further, and let's embrace it. We have no choice. Let's embrace it.
Valerie, I could not agree more with that. And trust me when I tell you, we're going to have to get a whole separate show on how to make meetings more exciting. You and I were talking about that a little bit before. And, for anybody who's listening on the podcast, you missed Valerie flashing, her feeling on a stick that she has on her virtual meeting. You got to see it on the YouTube page here. But we're going to have to do a whole show on how to spice up the monotonous corporate Zoom meeting.
I will be there, Chris. I will be there for you.
I will be taking notes feverishly, and I cannot wait to have that conversation. But until then, Valerie, where can we find out more about the Vibe Agency?
Yes, you can look for us on our website, www.thevibeagency.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Valerie Bihet, Bihet. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. So, and otherwise, my email is valerie@thevibeagency.com.
I love it. If you cannot get a hold of Valerie with all of that, you're definitely not trying. So, Valerie, thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you, Chris. Bye.
Bye,
everybody.